nights in a row, lucky you. So if you didn't catch last night's crow pose, it is live on YouTube. There is the little PDF thing on my website, and you probably got like 5 more minutes to watch it on my story or whatever. And I will do the same with this one by the end of the week for sure. So a while ago I sent out a question, what do you guys want to know about? And one of the things was building upper body strength. So I am going to focus on the shoulders today. There are loads of ways to get into your shoulders, and it's important to remember that strength is great, but you can end up with less space as you get stronger. Now, I don't believe that you can ever be too strong, but I do think you could have too much muscle mass and not enough mobility, which is slightly different to flexibility. Flexibility is like dropping into splits and holding it. Mobility would be working your way in and out of the splits, or working into splits in another position without using gravity. So like standing splits, and like inverted splits, things like that. So you want to make sure that you are always maintaining a good range of motion, and then that you are able to support at least your body weight, if not more, while moving through as much of that range of motion as possible. Yoga is really great for building that because it encourages you to be mobile, particularly faster flowing practices such as rocket, ashtanga, vinyasa. But you know, you don't have to dash around on your mat to become more mobile. You just need to focus on moving as well as holding, and as always, breathing, because when these places like shoulders and hips start getting investigated, often there's some resistance. And when there is resistance, sometimes you forget to breathe because it's flipping hard and your first response is when your brain stops receiving oxygen, as I mentioned yesterday, it goes into preservation mode and it associates that activity with death, and therefore isn't very enthusiastic about doing it. So as long as you're breathing and respecting your edges, then you will definitely make lots of progress. But to remember that you've kind of got a scale of like your strength and your space or flexibility, mobility, whatever, and throughout your life, every day, different poses, different parts of your body, you're going to hang out somewhere along that scale between strength and space. And I spend most of my time over on the strength side just because that is how my body is built, but I'm slowly getting closer to the middle. In fact, on some places I've got more space and less strength, but that's quite rare. And ideally you don't want to be too far towards the ends of either, because it's all very well being strong, but if you can't move, what's the point? It's all very well being bendy, but if you can't hold yourself up, what's the point? So you want to try and gradually get yourself closer to the middle so that you work within your range of strength and space. And today we're going to focus on the shoulders. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a couple of my favourite poses for building strength, and then a couple of my favourite ways to explore space and release. So the number one pose that I think is really important that you master in yoga is chaturanga, because it's in every sun salutation, it's in every vinyasa, and often they're done as an exhale only, and so there's not enough time for a teacher to get around the whole room and check everybody's doing it right, and you might not injure yourself in a bad chaturanga or like a poor form chaturanga, but you certainly won't be doing yourself any benefits, and you could really cause a lot of tension, a lot of aggravation in lots of body parts, wrists, neck, back. So I'm going to stress chaturanga, and then I'm also going to focus on dolphin, which is a really good strengthening pose. So, chaturanga. I will show you a non-aided chaturanga. I think I can fit on the screen for both. Yep, perfect. And so the key to chaturanga is remembering that although it brings your body down to the mat, is that it's a forwards movement. Okay, as soon as you get that idea in your head, it makes a big difference to how you move and how you hold your body. So I'm going to do it with my legs extended first, and then I'll show you some modifications. So chaturanga arms, as I explained in that crow video yesterday, you want to make sure that your elbows are over your wrists and your fingers are behaving like toes. And you want to point the eyes of your elbows forwards, so the backs of your elbows are facing behind you. From your high plank, you then take your shoulders forwards, keeping those elbows in, and you can hang out, or in the sun salutations you come all the way down onto your belly and then open up into cobra or more. Okay, so it's remembering that it's a forwards movement with the shoulders rather than just a downwards movement. Okay, you see how when I come down I get stuck. When I go forwards I've got space. Okay, and you want to try and really keep those elbows in as close as you can, because otherwise you're going to strain the wrists and you're not going to have that support from your shoulder muscles. So a lot of chaturangas look like this, elbows out to the side, and even more of them are hips down first, because they're going down rather than forwards. Okay, now your legs are super heavy, so you want to make sure that you're using your legs, your toes are plugged in, you're reaching through your heels, reaching through the top of your head. But if you're not strong enough to control that yet, which is legit because it is asking quite a lot of perhaps totally new muscles to you, then bring your knees down, okay? Don't be afraid to come back from your forward fold into your plank, then drop your knees and then come forwards, okay? That takes all the weight out of your legs and makes it safe. That's much better than being here and then sogging or like collapsing. Okay, so bring the knees down and shift forwards. So, in a vinyasa class, in a rocket sequence, in an ashtanga sequence, you'll do a ton, but it's probably not a bad thing to sort of do as homework at home, and you can use things to help you. So I'm just gonna grab some blocks. You don't have to use blocks, although they do have them at IKEA. Anything that is supportive and not too squishy and not too slippery. So just some books, I mean like a shoebox or something would work. But what you can do is to make sure you don't go past that point where you collapse. You can get ready to prop up two places, one your shoulders and two your chest. So I'll show you with shoulders first from the side and front on. So just placing my blocks in front of my hands, finding my way up onto my whatever leg choice I've got. I'll do one with my legs long, one with my knees down, and then I'm going to come forwards and rest my shoulders on the block. Okay? You can practice pushing back up, or you can drop the knees and find your way back as you need to, okay? So head on looks like this. Okay, so catching your shoulders. Again, you can do it with your chest, whatever height you need. That's probably about right for me. So finding your way and resting your chest on the block. Okay? What I used to do, and it's probably part of a lot of people's journey, is they go through the phase where they have soggy hips, and then they go through the phase where they're trying to keep their hips up and not drop down to the mat before their chest, and they end up sticking their bum up in the air. So you end up in this position and then descending. Now my back's not straight, okay? It's okay to leave your bum higher, but keep reaching your tailbone back to your toes. Okay, so I'm still higher with my hips, but I haven't got my bum sticking out, okay? So you want to keep those hips in neutral, that tailbone pointing back rather than up to the ceiling. Okay, so that's your chaturanga. I'm talking, so I'm not really breathing. Really try and breathe, and if you can hang out and hold and breathe in chaturanga, then that's where the real gains are going to come. You really want to feel in the fronts of your shoulders that work really starting to build. So taking yourself into chaturanga and breathing. And if you want to up the ante, you could lift a leg, you could do push-ups, trying not to worm, just lowering with that long straight back, forward and back. Okay, that's going to build lots of strength, trying not to let your elbows flap out to the sides. Just work within your range, work within your ability. It's much better that you do just 2 really good ones than you say, I'm going to do 10, and you get to 6 and your form is terrible and you do the last 4 because you said, and you hurt yourself. Okay, so don't do that. It's much better that you do 5 lots of 2 that are brilliant than you do 10 in a row and half of them are a waste of time. So that's your chaturanga. That guy is amazing. Really, really good. Work with it. Respect your edges, but as I always say, go up and poke them. If you don't poke them, they won't move. But yeah, see what happens. If you guys have any questions, I'm going to try and answer them today. Sorry, I realised usually I just switch the live off. I will have a quick check back, so if you have any questions, chuck them in the comments and I'll either answer them at the end of the video or I'll send you a message when I find them. So the second strength building pose, which again features in rocket loads, but could really be in any class, sometimes I put it in my hatha classes just to keep things spicy, is dolphin pose. So you can do a dolphin plank and you can do full dolphin, which eventually leads up into forearm stand. And it's important to remember, as much as you might like dolphins, and I like dolphins, they're not actually the nicest, friendliest animals. They can be really quite aggressive to each other and to lots of other animals. So this pose, this pose is actually quite aptly named. Also, when you come up into the full pike version, you do look a bit like a dolphin, sort of jumping out of the water. Okay, so key things to think of for dolphin are to make sure that your elbows are under your shoulders. So you want a right angle, okay? You want to have that right angle rather than be too far forwards or too far back. And some of that will be limited by how much space you have, by your range of motion. And so the stretches I'm going to show after will really help with that. They really help me. And the other thing you want to remember is that you keep checking in. Every time you come out, you check back in to see that your elbows are still under your shoulders. Okay? You can have whatever grip you like. There's a couple. I'll show you 2. And then I'm just going to work with 1 tonight because my thumb's playing up again, so I don't want to strain it too much. So the 2 different grips you can have with your hands. How far do I need to be? There we go. So you can either have your hands flat on the mat. So you see how my elbows are under my shoulders. Quick check. You can hug and see, and then place your hands flat. Or you can interlace your hands and then push into your elbows a little more. I find that one gives me a bit better grip. I found, certainly when I was beginning, that having my hands flat tends to cause my elbows to splay out more. So, from the side, I'm going to interlace my hands, check my shoulders are under my elbows, interlace my hands, and then you want to plug your elbows into the mat. You want to lift your shoulders up and away. So we're not trying to sink into the floor, we're trying to lift out of the floor. Okay? And then from here, we're just going to come into plank. So we're going to take the legs long, one at a time, pull the core back, reach through the heels, reach through the crown of the head. Okay? Finding as much length as you can in those upper arms. And again, you know, you can do all sorts of things here. You can play with hip rolls if you want extra core strength, or you can just hold and breathe. But keeping those shoulders over the elbows. Sorry, that perspective's not quite right. There we go, that's better. Okay, once you're comfortable there, you can start loading the elbows more, bringing more weight up, reaching your hips higher. Okay, trying to keep those shoulders over the elbows, so not coming forwards, not sinking your head into the mat, but lifting up and out. I find looking between my arms really helps. You can bend your knees if that helps you get your hips higher. You can lift a leg if you want. Just make sure you're breathing, exploring. And then resting as you need. Okay, so dolphin again is a really good one, but saves your wrists, which is a big benefit. I've been working with it a lot recently. It builds huge amount of strength because you're so close to the floor. You have to really concentrate on not sinking and really lifting. And yeah, so that's your dolphin. To modify or to help make sure your elbows don't splay out, you really want to think about rolling your shoulder blades open and like wrapping your back around. And you can also get a strap. You can also use a strap to tie your arms together. This strap's mega long, so just go with it. But it doesn't have to be a strap, it can be a scarf, it can be anything. Just make sure it's working at the right width for your shoulders. Just tie that one off. Okay, and so now my shoulders, elbows I mean, won't splay out, and so I can just concentrate on pushing into my elbows and lifting. Okay, remember, props are your friends. Props don't mean you're cheating, props mean you can do it properly and safely. Every body is different and there isn't really right or wrong, but there's right or wrong for your body. There's safe and unsafe, there's efficient and inefficient, which can be quite easily simplified into right or wrong. But I'm not here to tell you what's exactly right. I'm just exploring these poses today with a history of being a very strong and stiff person, and finally finding a bit more flexibility, a bit more mobility, a bit more space, and even more strength as a result. Okay, so chaturanga and dolphin, really good strengthening poses. Okay, so for space, if you come to any of my classes, I will tell you pretty much every single one, no matter which class it is, that you need to try and do puppy pose at least a couple of times a week. If you're going to yoga a couple of times a week, when your teacher lets you do your own thing, do it. If you're able to do it every day, amazing. This thing has changed my life, literally. Really helped release all the tension across my chest and help me get my shoulders back. And yeah, I mean, I have a pretty bendy back as well, which is helpful, but all of my limits has been in my shoulders. And so now I'm really starting to undo all of that, and it's really beneficial to everything. So, puppy pose. So you can think of whatever breed of dog you like. Obviously Max shows me how to do this every single time. He's currently asleep in the kitchen. He's got a bad leg, bless him, so he's not dashing around like normal. I don't know what he's done. So puppy pose, you want to try and leave your hips over your knees, okay? Try to resist the urge to take your bum back, because that takes a lot of the weight out of the stretch and therefore reduces its impact. However, if it's too much, then obviously take your hips back a little. But it's better if you can to leave your bum above your knees or slightly further forwards. And then you're going to walk your hands straight out in front of you, trying to get your arms long and start to drop your chest down towards the mat. So very quickly, if you've never done this before, you'll start to feel it in the outsides of your shoulders. Play with the width of your hands. You might find wider hands helps. You might find narrower hands helps. But really try and sink your chest down towards the mat, leaving your bum up in the air, allowing your spine to hang long. Now you come to rest on your forehead, or if you're comfortable you can rest on your chin, or if the floor's too far away and you can't rest on anything, bring in some support and let yourself rest on whatever you get to. So just really letting yourself melt down, sink down into the mat, into the ground. And if you can stay there for at least 10 breaths, several minutes, you know, and depending on the size of your chest, I always joke, if I put more socks in my sports bra, I'd be better at puppy pose. Depending on the size of your chest, it will depend on how close you get to the floor. Eventually this can become a chest stand where you're actually fully on your chest with your arms back and your legs above your head. I'm not there yet, but it is possible. So whether you have that goal in mind or not, just think about that being the goal, but try if you can to resist the urge to come so far forwards that you then are really, really close to the floor and you're putting loads of pressure in your lower back. Try not to get stuck in your lower back, okay? It's a really easy place to get into because there's no bones to protect it. So although you're allowing it to open, be mindful that it's not the only reason that you're there, okay? So this amount of body awareness it asks a lot, but that's why yoga's awesome, and that's why it's a daily practice, because you have to check in. Other variations you can do are you could have your hands higher on something and then let yourself sink down. You can rest your elbows on that something and maybe bring your hands into a prayer above your head. I really like that one. It doesn't give me as much of a drop in my chest, but it feels really nice in the shoulders. But also when you're there, you could start straightening out the spine and then dropping and just moving through your range of motion, kind of like a cat-cow. Just exploring what's available in your shoulders. Now, if coming down onto the floor is horrible for you, like you can't breathe and it's too much, a really great modification for puppy pose is to do it at the wall or on a counter. So I'll show you the wall against this chest of drawers. So what you want to try and do, again, is not just collapse into your lower back. So you want to be, and you'll play with how far away to be or not, you take your hands up the wall and then just let your chest sink down towards it, okay? So just playing, making sure that you're not so close that you get stuck in your lower back, that your hips stay over your knees and you just start to drop your chest in towards the wall. Other options, when you're boiling the kettle in the morning, just go to your counter, put the kettle on, put your hands on the counter, that's like average counter height, and then just let yourself hang through your arms, and that feels really nice. Why does it feel so nice as you get used to it, but so horrible as you're not used to it? Because if you think about it, all of our daily life involves our arms being forwards. Whether you're driving a car, typing at a desk, carrying a child, or like me, doing yoga every day, most of yoga is in front of you, pushing, pushing, pushing. You build a lot of strength, maybe, or at least a lot of tension in the front of your body, and your shoulders start to hunch. The other thing to think about emotionally, maybe you don't do it consciously, but it happens subconsciously, your heart's in here, in this rib cage, in this cage, there's your key word there, and so you spend a lot of time protecting it. You know, when it's cold, you hunch up to keep yourself warm, to keep everything in. When you're upset, you hunch up. When you're cross, you hunch up. When you're not concentrating on what you're doing, you hunch up. And so as a result, everything's forward. And so asking for things to open up and come back can be quite an uncomfortable feeling to begin with, but it's so worthwhile, so worthwhile. My other really favourite chest opener, shoulder opener at the moment is fish pose. I really enjoy fish pose. You can do it supported. I'll show you with a block with a bolster, and I'll show you without. I'll show you without first. And so for fish, you can come in from two ways. You can come in from the top. So you come to sit on your hands. I use my legs out long as an anchor. And then roll your shoulder heads back, pulling your elbows in, lifting your heart up. And that might be enough, sitting there and exploring that. Or perhaps you can drop down onto your elbows, keeping your chin tucked into your chest, or if you want to, letting your head drop back. Really lifting your heart up, opening the fronts of your shoulders. Other options are to come from the bottom up. So you're sitting on your hands again, and then wrapping your elbows under, rolling your shoulder heads, coming onto the top of your head, and lifting your heart up. So those are unsupported. supported with a block. You could put the block either way. You can either place it across and rest like your middle back, ladies where your bra is, guys where bras go, on the bolster, on the block, and then just let your arms do what they like. Sometimes it's quite nice to take them overhead. Just let your elbows fall out to the side. And other options with the block or the bolster, and they become a bit more like a reclined bound angle, or like a butterfly. You can place it long, so you can place the block long, and now your shoulders will really fall open. So just finding a place that's comfortable for you, letting your shoulders fall open, and you can support your head if it feels like it's hanging too far, and just let your shoulders fall wide. Again, doing whatever you like with your arms, really. Just exploring that space across the front of your chest. And obviously the most relaxing will be with a bolster, because bolsters are really relaxing. Finding the same idea, just letting your shoulders fall out wide. I always like to bring the soles of my feet in when I'm doing a more restorative variation, but you could leave your legs long. And just letting the front of your chest open up. And then finally, another pose I've been working on, I did post it a couple of weeks ago actually, and I've taught it the last week in class, is reverse namaskar, reverse prayer position. Now this is absolutely by no means anything that I'm good at, anything that I find easy, but I do find that it is really beneficial and really helps open up my chest, open up my shoulders. And so I will turn around the other way and show you what the various stages to get yourself into are, okay? So I find kneeling helps me keep my spine straight, and then just bringing your fingertips together pretty low down so that you can touch all of your fingertips together, and then rolling your shoulders back, rolling your shoulder heads back, pressing your fingertips together. Now that might be enough, just staying there, straightening your spine out and breathing. Perhaps you can start to press your hands together and explore creeping your fingertips up in between your shoulder blades. That's my limit for today. I can't get much further than that. Or you can just press your knuckles together, focusing on the space across the chest. So from the side, you can see that as you start, probably and quite naturally, you'll lift your body out the way to make room for your hands. That's okay. Just try, when you notice, to tuck your spine back straight, tailbone down, chin in slightly, and then explore whatever it is you're exploring, pressing your hands flat or pushing your knuckles in towards each other. So there you go. There's 5 poses for Sunday. Your chaturanga and your dolphin for building strength, and your puppy, your fish, maybe recline bound angle if you want to use a supported variation, and reverse namaskar for building more space across the chest, more awareness into the shoulders. That is by no means all of them, that's just the 5 I've chosen for tonight. There are tons more, and I'll check back in soon with some of those for you.